Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our very special event to celebrate the 20 wonderful years of Paul's ministry here at Balhelvie. And can I first of all say, well done to everyone for making your way to the church. We are aware that the original invitation was to the church hall, but as we had such a wonderful response, we moved to the church to accommodate us all. A reflection, I'm sure, of people's high regard and affection for Paul and his lovely family. Rona, Ross, Mary, Isla, and of course the in-laws are here as well. And I'd now like to introduce the lovely young people gathered here. They are from Balmedy School Sing and Smile Club and are led by Ms. Laura England. As many of you know, Paul has often spoken very warmly of his time with the young people at Balmedy School as the school's chaplain, and music is such an integral part of his ministry here in Balhelvie, so what better way to open the afternoon's proceedings? So sit back, relax, and enjoy the Sing and Smile Club.
It's been so long since I've seen you smile.
thank you to all our young people here today. I'm sure you'll agree that was the perfect opener for this afternoon. Right, okay. And I'd now like to hand over this afternoon to our session clerk, Mr. Alan Ritchie, for his tribute to Paul and his ministry.
I would wait until it's finished before you start clapping. The Rev Dr Paul McKeown was inducted as minister here at Balhelby Parish Church on Thursday, the 4th of April, 2005. I wonder how many of you remember the occasion. 20 years have passed. 20 summers with the lengths of 20 long winters. Serving us 20 years as a minister is quite considerable, but it's twice the length of the two ministers before Paul together, although it's only half what the minister before that served. At Paul's induction service, you'll remember, the hymns sung on that occasion were, "Be still for the presence of the Lord. The Lord is King, lift up thy voice. I, the Lord of sea and sky. All my hope in God is founded, and come, Holy Ghost, our souls inspire." We still sing these hymns today, so you could be saying, nothing much has really changed in 20 years. Or has it? Well, let's look at Paul's time here at Balhelvie in a little more detail. We will start with the boring business bit, Kirk session meetings. He conducted the meetings in a very professional manner, and he brought an air of relaxation and cheerfulness to the meetings, though you wouldn't think so judging by the elders' faces. He handled tricky moments tactfully, though with some anxiety. And whenever he outlined something new he wanted to introduce to the Kirk session, though a little wary at times, were always very supportive, and that was because of the sheer admiration and the respect they had for the minister Paul. And as always, Paul would emphasize the importance of spiritual discipline to the elders, connecting regularly with God. On the 26th of January this year, Paul led worship at Balhelvie Church for the last time. Preparing for Sunday and leading worship every Sunday is a minister's biggest and most demanding and probably most enjoyable part of their weekly work. It is thanks to you, Paul, we have the comparatively healthy numbers attending Balhelvie Church on a Sunday today. Apart from the usual Sunday services, Paul introduced some new services. There was the memorial service, supporting newly bereaved. There was the new service down at Balmedie Leisure Centre at Christmas time. That was to connect with the community in a very lively and noisy and boisterous way. And then recently there has been the introduction of the more relaxed and informal service, the all-age worship in the Forsyth Hall, giving the congregation a bigger opportunity to participate in a service and to get to know each other better. And as well, of course, the fly cup in the middle of the service. His children's talks on a Sunday were so entertaining. and so full of energy, and so much enjoyed by the adults as well. His visual resources were so wonderful and illustrative. And it was Paul who introduced many a new song, many a new hymn, fishy music, the worship music group, the BBC, and that's not to mention his own solo singing and guitar playing. And his sermons. In 20 years, he preached approximately 1,000 sermons. Would you believe it? Making up 1,000 sermons. Mind you, the organist in that time played about 5,000 hymns. That's what you don't know. And that equates to 17,000 roughly verses. And that's not to mention the music before the service and after the service and all the in-betweens. But let's move on, shall we? His sermons, everyone spoke so brilliantly about. And they certainly engaged the imagination of the congregation and connected the biblical text so well to the lives of the congregation. And all the time continually driving home to us all the significance of the cross. Fancy me doing that. The vertical representing our connection with God, and the horizontal representing our connection with other people. You can't have one without the other in order to be a true Christian. However, as far as Sunday services are concerned, we are definitely not going to miss those corny, quick-fire Christmas cracker jokes. And certainly won't miss the regular references that we had to Liverpool Football Club. The match at Pittodrie today kicks off in 40 minutes' time, so I'll try and be very quick. Who's interested? Paul was so good in other church services too. Take marriages. So good at blessing new relationships. Baptisms and blessings. So good at welcoming new lives. Funerals. So good at visiting people and mourning with them. And delivering excellent eulogies. This brings me to a particular strength of Paul's, visiting and engaging with people on a one-to-one basis, people who suffered bereavement, people going through stressful times, troubled times, and difficult times. In the last 3 years, Paul trained as a volunteer listener and offered a weekly listening session in Ellen. He then went on a counselling skills course, and this reinforced his love to be with people at the sharp end of life. And that is why Paul is now a healthcare chaplain at ARI, and he's already been a week at it. Paul has not left ministry. He is just doing a different type of ministry. He has responded to Christ's call on his life in new ways. Last Saturday, the P&J had a 2-page article on Paul leaving in Balhelvie Church, and even had his picture on the front cover of the P&J. Mechty me. The last time I think I recollect such coverage was when the Russian President Mikhail Gorbachev visited Aberdeen. Last week's article was headed, "Our Faith and Communities Go Hand in Hand." As I mentioned at the start, Paul was forever coming up with new ideas and initiatives. Early on in his 20 years, he established the weekly prayer meeting. He initiated the house group meetings where people can gather and reflect on a passage from the Bible or an idea and then share with each other how they would live it out in their everyday lives. He started a summer holiday Bible club, ending with a special service on the Sunday. He initiated the Gingerbread Village exhibition at Christmas time. He ran alpha courses, courses in the manse, SNAP, Numa. He organised Soul Space. That was a chance for people to have a quiet time in church, especially at Christmas time. He started up a men's group, doing various things, but resulting in the men's breakfast, which led to the competitive Golden Girls being established. In order to help deepen friendship and relationships, he ran parenting and marriage courses. Paul initiated the twice-yearly and very successful fundraising quiz nights. Successful fundraising. The most successful of all was the Right Christmas Appeal, raising money for local, national, and international causes. Paul's idea. It was Paul who set up the pastoral care team, creating a team of visitors to visit the lonely, the elderly, and such like. And the pastoral care team eventually set up the monthly Coffee Haven, a welcoming place for the community. We have mainly music, weekly meetings for parents and toddlers. Very popular, very worthwhile, and most successful. Paul, so full of ideas, so full of energy, and full of inspiration. Surely that will be his legacy for us, to carry on and even resurrect, in some cases, those initiatives. Let us not forget Paul's family in all of this. They have been such a support to Paul, such a support to the church life, and so friendly and so likable. Rona, stand-in organist, even at the last minute, participating in the worship music group. Carol singing in the community at Christmas time, helping with mainly music. She ran Christian Aid on the odd occasion, set up a Thursday group, helped in the Sunday school. And all of this on top of her busy workload at home and at her work. Ross, for his guitar playing in the worship music group, singing with the BBC, playing the drum for the BBC, and setting up the AV sound system and training other folk on how to use it. Mary and faraway Isla, their involvement with the worship music group. Mary playing the organ, both singing so beautifully the songs for the recorded services during lockdown. And they've helped greatly in the ECO committee work. To all of you and your multi-talents, we give you our thanks. All the initiatives mentioned, and there's probably more, are examples of your own belief, Paul, that the way forward for the church today is faith community. The church working with, collaborating with, and supporting each other in the community. You, Paul, firmly believe that for spiritual growth, that means small groups meeting and opening up about themselves and their experiences. This belief arguably led to your greatest initiative of all, the development plan. Car park, halls, storage space, changes to the front of the church, and finishing with the annex, providing the necessary accommodation to fulfill your dreams of having more spaces for small groups to meet. There were times during the latter stages of the development plan you had doubts and asked the question, are we going to manage this? But courage, brother, trust in God. Fancy having to say that to a minister. The annex was achieved and is providing a brilliant service to the church and the community, and all Paul's idea. 20 years have passed, and yes, a lot has changed. Finally, Paul, perhaps your greatest strength of all was being able to communicate personally with all types and all ages within the community. The grand and the humble, the young and the old, the eccentric and the truly awkward. You were always approachable, not on some distant holy pedestal, yet you always stood by your religious principles. Surely, being the minister in a community such as ours, especially in our modern age, is one of the hardest jobs of all. Meeting the expectations of such a disparate lot. The entrenched, the modernizers, the involved, the uninvolved, and sadly, the totally apathetic. Yes, Paul succeeded where many would have failed, in holding your congregation together in true harmony, devoid of cliques and rancor, in what must have been at times a very lonely job. And there is no doubt the support you got from Rona along the way was invaluable. However, there is no doubt that central to your ministry, you could always refer to the fact that visitors to our church or church events invariably remark on what a friendly bunch we are. This is largely down to the atmosphere created by you and Rona within our church. We will all miss you greatly, but just as you have blessed us all for 20 years, we pray and trust you will now bless others. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. It's no mean feat capturing the essence of 20 years of work, ministry, pastoral support, spiritual guidance, leadership, preaching, and kindness. But I'm sure you'll all agree that Alan did a wonderful job. Well done. As they say, a picture paints 1,000 words. And over the years, there have been many events, many referred to in Alan's speech, special occasions, services and social events which have been central to Paul's ministry. They've been recorded most diligently and ably by William Anderson, who's up there, just in case you can't see him. Okay? So we prevailed upon him to compile a picture review from the many photos he has in his extensive archive to give us a flavour of those years and bring back many happy memories. Can I also say at this point that his first thought was it would take about 20 minutes. We said, could you just maybe make that just a wee bit shorter? Okay? But that's a testament to all the wonderful things that have happened in the last 10, 20 years. So, over to you gentlemen in the gallery, our picture review. Well done. William, that was splendid. As many of you will know, and has already been alluded to, Isla McKeown, youngest member of the McKeown family, has embarked on an expedition to Malawi as part of her next stage in her education and development as a young person. She is teaching as part of this, but has taken time out of lesson prep and delivery to record the following message for today.
Hello everyone! I was planning on recording this message for you outside on a lovely, hot and sunny day here in Malawi, but honestly it has been chucking it down with rain for the past 5 days straight. So I'm in my room just now and I've just finished watching Dad's last ever service. So I'm feeling quite emotional, not only because this is such a profound moment for him, but also because I'm not there to give him a big hug afterwards. Growing up in the manse has been a huge gift to me because it meant growing up with the love and support from the church family. From as early as I can remember, I knew just how much work and thought that Dad put into his job. Mondays were the days that Dad would sermonise, as we called it in our house, and that often meant no piano practice or loud noise, which especially included no bickering with Ross when we were little. So he could focus on delivering high quality sermons that he was passionate about. And he always delivered. When things were difficult, especially in lockdown, Dad never gave up or faltered in quality. When numbers were low, Dad would always show up with a thought-provoking sermon, and if we were lucky, a couple of bad jokes too. Both inside and out the church, he is kind, loving, fruitful, and has the biggest heart of anyone that I know. Dad, I am so proud of you. The work that you have done for Balhelvie Church and the community is something I will always admire. From playing Daddy down the stairs to sending me off to Malawi, the love that you and Mum have shown me has shaped me into who I am today. And words can't describe how grateful I am for that. I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for your unfaltering support. As a minister and as a father, you have always shown immense strength and love in everything that you do, and I have no doubts that this will continue into your next chapter. I can't wait to see you thrive as you move forwards. I know you have all the love and support in the world from me and from everyone here today. I love you and I miss you so much, Dad, and I can't wait to see you all again once I'm back home. Bye-bye.
I think we may need to just pause for a moment or two. That was wonderful, Isla. And I'm sure all of you who know her and love her as we do that you'll appreciate, that was no mean feat for her either sometimes. Okay. Now, as you know, members and friends were invited to contribute towards a gift for Paul. And I'd now like to invite Mr. Alan Ritchie, our session clerk, to help me to present our gift. If you would just like to come out, Alan, and I believe you have one part and I have the other. Okay. Oh, right, okay, to say something.
There'll be more tears yet, I'm sure. 20 years have passed. Not again, you'll be saying. Paul, on behalf of the congregation here at Balhelvie Church and the entire local community, thank you most sincerely for your 20 years of ministry. Thank you for your dedicated service to the whole church community. And thanks also to Rona, Ross, Mari and Isla for all their work and for their friendship. You, Paul and Rona, for everything you have done and for everything you have been, I would like you now to accept this gift from Balhelvie Parish Church.
Thank you. suggestion of painting, and we chose this one. Some of you might recognise this. We think this is Home Farm already. So we were torn between Palmetty Beach or this one, but this one won the day. So this will be a lovely reminder of this beautiful parish that we've had the privilege to serve in for these 20 years. And this little tree reminds us of the tree of life, of newness and growth and fruitfulness, which are important things, and it's just part of what we've been trying to communicate over the time that we've been here at Balhelvie. So thank you so much for these gifts. We really do appreciate them. God bless you. Thank you.
And I believe now that Paul and Rona have a few words they want to say. Rona, did you have a few words you wanted to say first? And then I believe Paul's going to respond as well. Okay.
Thank you, Daphne, just for allowing me just a few minutes to speak. Really to also just add my thank yous. And can I begin by thanking you all for coming? It really does mean so much to see so many folk here, and looking around, seeing many, many faces of those whose friendship and love has supported us over the years. And can I thank everyone in the team who has organised this event for us. I know how much work will have been done behind the scenes, and we are so grateful for that. I feel so very blessed and thankful for many wonderful Balhelvie folk that I've journeyed with over the last 20 years. Some for a short time, others for longer, but I do want to mention just one or two in particular. As 20 years of doing life covers a lot of significant moments, especially when it's a time of your children growing up. Like any one of us here, there have been moments of great joy and moments of deep darkness. But mostly there have been a lot of ordinary, everyday moments. And as I've reflected on these years, again, I've realised that finding joy in the ordinary moments, finding small things to be thankful for each day, is what's good for us all. When I asked our kids what they were most thankful for about Balhelvie Church, there was a resounding Kirk Club. Daphne and Tricia, I will be forever grateful for your input into the lives of our three and countless other kids' lives. Your commitment, your fun teaching and love shown to them all will have impact way beyond you'll ever know. One-up breakfasts might also have been mentioned. Many thanks to all the One-up Sunday school, creche and youth leaders over the many years who have provided breakfasts and time and energy to our church's young people. Before we had even moved from Glasgow, Mrs. Lamb, I'm not sure where you are, saw you coming in, Mrs. Lamb had sent a welcome to Sunday school card to help our kids settle in. So thoughtful as ever. And to all of you who have sent cards and messages and gifts and remembered significant events in our family lives over the years, thank you. It has meant so much and been such an encouragement. One of the main reasons I wanted to stand here today was to thank the Property Committee, who look after not just the church building, but the halls and the manse as well. And living in a manse brings enormous challenges, both for the property team and for the family. But thank you, Property Committee, for looking after our house for the last 20 years with such attention and planning, always done with care and cheerfulness. For allowing us to have chickens in our garden, and for allowing us to make the manse our home. Your work has been very, very much appreciated. In those darker days of life when our hearts were heavy and aching, thank you to those who took the time to support and pray for us, to sit with us and listen. Thank you especially to my brother Graham and Margaret, to Muriel, who's here, to Francois and Elizabeth, for showing me hope, to Audrey and Lisa, and to William for going the extra mile or to be exact, the extra 300 miles, driving the kids and me all the way from Belhelvie to Ballymena for a family funeral. And to Alan for making that same journey, which we were all so touched by and so thankful for. To Alan for giving us support in those dark times, but also in the everyday ordinary times with such patience and such encouragement. Tuesday afternoons has been one of my favourite times in the week. It's a mainly music day, and what a joy that has been. A lot of fun, a lot of hard work, a lot of kids, and a lot of practical love and care given to our mainly music families. What a team to be part of. Thank you to those who have been in the team in the previous 10 years, but mostly especially to our current team, to Jeanette, to Sheila, Pat, Shona, and Cynthia. Thank you all. Thank you to Paul for keeping me calm in the chaos of life, for your wisdom and your teaching. To my wonderful parents, who I feel so blessed to have shared many services here with, and who are also so grateful for the welcome and friends they have made here. And finally, Ross, Mary, and Isla, who have risen to the challenges of living in a manse with incredible respect, support, and understanding, for giving me joy and helping me find beauty in the everyday, ordinary moments of life. So, in closing, thank you all for being part of this journey with us, and may you all find joy and encouragement in the ordinary moments of your lives as you start the next chapter for Belhelvie Church.
And now, of course, I'd like to invite Paul to come to the front and respond.
Thank you, Daphne. Whew, this is high. Your last speaker must have been a lot taller than me. Right, I know what you're thinking. He scrubs up pretty well when he puts some effort in. Sing and smile. What a delight to have you guys here today. I had no idea that was happening until I got a wee bit nervous and I went through to the vestry for a pee. And then there's all these kids here. That was superb. I'm so pleased you could be here today, and thank you, Laura, for organising that. That was lovely. So I spoke to Francois, who was part of the organising team, about how long I would have today. And with his usual South African directness, he said, more than just some thank yous, but shorter than a sermon. And I think I might have failed on the last point. But after 20 years, it's hard to know where to begin, let alone where to end. I could start with a few memorable stories. Like the time that William Anderson forgot to put his phone off in church, which in fairness is a mistake that any of us could make. But it was a communion service, and William was a serving elder, and William was sitting right in the front row. And just as we're getting to that very solemn part of the communion service, it's like, da 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 da. I've never seen William move as fast. It was like Billy the Kid going for his Colt 45. Or I could tell you about the first time I went to the General Assembly as Belhelvie minister, along with James Irvin, our former treasurer. And I saw firsthand what can happen when an Aberdeenshire farmer discovers that the breakfast he's been enjoying all week, and it was a good breakfast, wasn't included in the booking fee. And he now owes the hotel 7 lots of £17. Or the time I visited a dear lady, Edna, who was just out of hospital and was back home, and she was deeply worried because someone apparently was coming out to her house that day to take away a part of her brain.
It turns out that she'd mixed up the word lobotomist, which means someone who operates and does some brain surgery, with the word phlebotomist, which is someone who's trained to take blood out of you. And it could go on. But the best place to start is probably at the beginning. 20 years ago, when Rona and I were living in Glasgow and looking through life and work for a job for me. Here's one that sounds good, she said. It's in Belhelvie. Where's that? I said. Oh, it's the northeast near Aberdeen. Aberdeen? Are you mad? That's miles away. Typical central belters. But we followed things up, and Ian Mackenzie sent us a parish profile which was full of blue skies and green fields and church and manse and New Hall all looking amazing, and a few shots of Balmedy Beach thrown in for good measure. And I would be lying if saying that that hadn't been very attractive to us living as we did in the heart of this city. So make sure that when you're producing your next parish profile, you put lots of good pictures of the parish in. But whatever you do, don't tell them about the har, right? Because nobody told us about the har. Wait until they've signed in the bottom line before that. But as we read through the profile, we began to feel that the kind of things that Balhelvie were needing for this next stage of their journey were probably the kind of things that we might be able to help with, and we felt led to apply. I preached locally in Newmarket in, I think, November 2004, so that the nominating committee could get to hear me, and not long after that, we all came up the road for a look around the place and for my interview, which was conducted by 9 people in a big U of tables at the front of the Forsyth Hall, and me in the middle in the mastermind chair. Just recently, Sheila Anderson said that she remembered me sauntering in with my rucksack. There's always a rucksack over my shoulder, looking completely at ease with myself and with the situation. I'm pretty sure that is not how I felt. But I do remember seeing the interview as part of the process of discernment. And that definitely took a lot of the fear out of it, because I was trying to hold it with an open hand. Now, I don't remember many of the questions that I was asked. There was definitely one about tombolas. There's always one about tombolas. And there was definitely one about my wife and what she was going to do at Balhelvie, but we'll get to that later. But I do remember the professional and good-humoured way that people interacted with me before, during, and after the interview. I remember the kind hospitality that Elizabeth Mackenzie showed to Ross, Rona and Mary while I was being interviewed. And I remember Ian Mackenzie, once the whole thing was over, chasing our kids around the Forsyth Hall and tickling them senseless till they collapsed on the floor. And as we drove away that night, we both found ourselves thinking, well, if the folk today that we've met are typical, then Balhelvie's probably going to be a good place to be. And so it proved to be. And we're very grateful to God for leading us here, and to you for having welcomed us into your lives and into your community these past 20 years. A lot's happened in those 20 years, as we've heard. I haven't counted the number accurately. Maybe he's a maths teacher. He's bound to be better at maths than I am. I thought it was 900 Sunday services. Maybe it only felt like 1,000. I don't know. 400 funerals, and scores of weddings, baptisms, and blessings. And having the time and the space to prepare and to be with people around those particular elements of my work has been one of the biggest blessings of the job. And of course, there were meetings to attend. Many meetings. Many meetings. Somebody once said that the Church of Scotland isn't so much a church of the committed, but the committed. And most of the meetings were necessary, and most of them, if not all, were okay. I had a wee smile to myself when I was speaking to someone in occupational health at Forester Hill about my new job. She said, well, you'll need to get your Hep B jag just in case somebody spits on you or bites you. And I thought to myself, well, no matter how bad things got at Kirk Sessions sometimes, they never got to that stage. As I've reflected on my time here, the things that I'm most proud of and happy with are the things that we did together. When people caught a vision for something that we might do. And it was even better when they were the ones that came up with the idea in the first place. That first right Christmas where we raised £10,000 to give away to a children's home in Bangladesh so that the poorest kids there could eat for a year. I love that whole thing because people caught the idea and they ran with it in their own ways, doing the things that they could do and they were good at. Concerts, social events, crafting, quiz nights, raising funds so we could bless a community who really needed that help at Christmas time. And as Alan said, we've blessed many more over the years. Or the Pledge Day back in 2015 that raised £35,000 in one day as we were beginning to wonder what we might do with our church plant. And the huge amount of work that the development team, a team of 5 people, did to get us where we are today with a great suite of buildings and no outstanding finance hanging over our heads going forwards. I think of Mainly Music and Coffee Haven and the Golden Girls and the work of the Social Committee, initiatives that I'm pleased to say I had little or nothing to do with running because other people saw a need or an opportunity and made it their business to respond to it. Because the thing about ministers is they come and go. But this will always be your church. And the responsibility for making it what it needs to be, a little outpost of the kingdom, is one that everybody needs to share in as we bring who we are into the service of God and of the church and of our community. When I sent in my CV for the job all those years ago, there was a line in it that said, the kind of congregation I want to serve in wouldn't be a community gathered around a minister. It would be a community of many ministries. And I stand by that now more than ever. A church is at its best when people step up and get involved and accept responsibility. And that's going to be needed more than ever in this next phase of your congregational life in vacancy and then under new leadership. This place and this people have been our home these last 20 years. And moving on is going to be hard, but as we leave, I want to thank you for 2 things in particular. Firstly, your kindness towards me and my family over our time here. You've given me the time and the space that I've needed to do my work as well as I can, and you've gently and unobtrusively encouraged and supported us from the sidelines. Never underestimate the power of a kind word or a phone call or an email or even a well-timed hug. They mean more than you realize. And some of you have excelled in that department, and you know who you are. You've been supportive and understanding in the loss of both my parents, in the stormy seasons of congregational life, through the challenges of the pandemic, and then my time off work 2 years ago. And you've also celebrated with us in the good times too, birthdays and anniversaries, and then not least when Isla became the first baby born in Belhelvie Manse for 50 years. And we'll always remember the small kindnesses that you've shown us over those years, the practical help that Alec, Innes, James, John and Ronnie would give us when something at home was very beyond my limited DIY skills. The annual bag of neeps that would arrive unheralded at the back door from Home Farm Muirton, courtesy of Bill Reid. The bag of mixed veg that Ali Cruikshank would supply each autumn, if only to say, "Look, Paul, this is what homegrown veg should look like." The kind parishioner who took by our pastor a beer day to heart and left some cans sitting on the man's doorstep. And Jim Paxton, former butcher, who in our early years would supply us with a turkey at Christmas time. I remember one year Jim and I had a good laugh because the supplier, I think from Northern Ireland, was called McKeown's Turkeys. And I looked him in the eye and I said, I have preached a few of those in my time. So thank you for all your kindnesses to us. And thanks also for the ways that you have shown your commitment to God by getting and by staying involved in the life of this congregation. The countless small things that you do to keep things ticking over. Odd jobs, making and serving food, organising rotas, setting up the hall, tidying up afterwards, doing administrational jobs, the kind of things that never get noticed until they're not done. And as Rona's already said, a special word to all those involved in the planning and preparation for today. And a particular word of thanks to Anne Christie for her excellent oversight of the welcome team and all they do in our time here. I want to say a thank you to everyone who's remained committed to turning up for worship on Sundays. The surest way to encourage your minister in his or her work is to stay involved in the life of the congregation in worship and in service. It makes us feel like the work that we're doing is valued and is making a difference. And I have to say, without that encouragement, it's very easy for clergy to lose heart. Don't let that happen to the person who follows me. I want to say thank you to my elders and to the conveners of all the different committees and groups who shoulder a lot of the pastoral and administration work of the congregation. The church literally couldn't run without the commitment that you bring to those roles. And I especially want to thank those who, over my time here, have held down what are probably thought of as the big three jobs: the property convener, the treasurer, and the session clerk. And some of those folk are among the absent friends that I'm very mindful of today. Jim Paxton, Ian Mackenzie, William Anderson and Laura Barron, who've overseen property. James Irvin, Ewan Daniel, Robert Lamb and Francois Van Niekerk, who've served as treasurer. And Mary Reid, Arthur Nicholson, William Anderson and Alan Ritchie, who have served as session clerk. Laura, Francois and Alan, special word for you three today for the support that you've given us personally over our time here and for the sterling work that you did on the development team along with Ian Mackenzie, who worked so hard on the fundraising elements. Laura, when I think of you, I always think of you in motion. You're never stopped. You're always moving. And you're living proof that if you want something done, you need to get a busy person to do it. You have done a superb job of stewarding our church plant, especially in the development work. And we are indebted to you for your capability and your kindness and your determination to make sure that the manse was always a pleasant home for the manse family. Francois, thank you for taking on the role of treasurer at a time when things were very complex with the development work, and for getting on and doing a thorough and competent job with minimum fuss alongside Audrey Walker, who helps with the annual accounts. And of course, Alan Ritchie. Exocet, as one former minister nicknamed him, for his ability to unfailingly hit the target at Kirk session meetings, sometimes with explosive consequences. Exocet. I remember listening to Alan getting up to speak at my induction social and thinking, who on earth is this guy? But it wasn't long before I came to realize that, like a fine wine, an Isla malt, or a win for Aberdeen Football Club, Alan Ritchie is a rare and wonderful thing, and to be treasured. Dedicated, kind, 100% reliable, not just going the extra mile, but on many occasions 3 or 4 extra miles, organist, pastoral support to many within the church and beyond, administrator and ally. Alan has been a superb session clerk and support through thick and thin, and we are so grateful that he agreed to take on that responsibility nearly 10 years ago, especially as he thought he was only taking it on for 3. Alan, thank you for all that you continue to do so selflessly for this congregation and all that you've meant to us personally over the years. Is that William Anderson's phone again? Okay. Now, we are already at sermon length, and the sausage rolls will be getting crispy. But there are 4 other people I need to thank, and you can guess who they are: Rona, Ross, Mary, and Isla. Folks, you know very well that you have had 2 for the price of 1 for the last 20 years. I remember being interviewed here all those years ago and being asked what Rona would do in the congregation as the minister's wife. I don't think you're allowed to ask that question anymore. Take note. But I do remember saying that Rona would do exactly the same things she would do as if she were a plumber's wife, or a farmer's wife, or a teacher's wife, or a dentist's wife. She would do the same things that she was gifted at and felt called to do, and she has done. Mainly music, musical accompaniment, youth work, one-up, Sunday school, holiday clubs, creche, and a host of countless smaller tasks. Not to mention being my soulmate and sounding board and wise, calm head these last 20 years, all while raising 3 kids and holding down an incredibly demanding job as a GP. I don't know how she's done it, but I am very grateful that she has done, because I literally couldn't have done what I've done without her by my side. And as has already been said, Ross and Mary and Isla have played their part too, with tech support and musical input and a willingness to muck in with whatever's been going on in church life. And we're grateful to them for coping with the slightly weird business of growing up in the public eye as the man's kids, and to you, the congregation, for the support and encouragement that you've given to them in many ways over the years. Folks, it's been a challenging but a rewarding road that we have walked these past 20 years, and we are glad to have walked it with you. We will never forget you. And if through what we've said and done and how we have been with you, we've helped some of you to know more of the love that God has for you and begin to respond to it in your own way, it will have been time well spent. So thank you again for the privilege of calling me to be your minister all those years ago, and may God bless you in all that lies ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Rona. Thank you, Paul. And our final item this afternoon, before we go to the hall for tea, yes, there is tea still to be had, is, of course, our Belhelvie Boys Choir. And I would like to ask them to prepare themselves and be ready to take the floor here, and I will hand over to them.
Praise the Lord in the field and forest.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'm sure you'll all agree with me. That was a wonderful ending to our meeting, our event this afternoon, this part of the afternoon. And I'd now like to invite Mr. Alan Ritchie to return to the lectern to make the closing remarks and give the vote of thanks.
Well, folks, we've reached the end of the first part of this afternoon's tribute to Paul and Rona. However, just before we go over to the hall and the annex for our afternoon tea and a chance to say our own personal farewells to the McKeown family, I would like to, on your behalf, say thank you to all those who have put in so much effort to making this afternoon so good. In particular, our thanks to the organising team, Francois van Niekerk, Laura Barron, Daphne McWilliam and Shona Taylor, and also those who have worked behind the scenes to make this a fitting farewell for the McKeown family. Please join me in showing our appreciation.